I want you to try and think back, like really try to remember the exact moment you stopped drawing.
Oh man, that is a really tough thing to pinpoint.
Right. I mean, you probably can't name the actual day, but somewhere between being a little kid and, well, right now you put the pencil down.
Yeah, it just happens.
Because when we were really young, nobody actually has to teach us how to draw.
No, not at all.
You just grab a crayon, you draw a jagged circle, put two smaller dots inside it, and boom, it is a face.
Exactly. It doesn't have a nose, it doesn't have ears. The eyes are probably floating somewhere near the chin.
But it doesn't even matter, right? Like for a 4-year-old, it is entirely enough.
Because for a child, drawing isn't about capturing photographic reality. It is about the pure act of seeing something, feeling it, and just pushing that internal sensation out into the physical world.
hmm It is a completely unfiltered instinct.
Right. There is literally no gap between the emotion and the expression.
But then inevitably, someone leans over and asks, where's the nose?
Yeah, the classic critique.
Or you start comparing your wobbly little house to the kid next to you who somehow figured out forced perspective and drew a 3D mansion.
Oh, that is the worst.
You look at your paper, you look at theirs, and you make this subconscious decision of, I can't draw.
Right.
And just like that, we surrender this language that used to belong to us. We just hand it over to the quote-unquote talented ones.
Which is really a profound cognitive loss. I mean, the desire to express yourself, to process the world around you, that doesn't just evaporate when you stop drawing. It
Mm-mm.
gets channeled into words or music or sometimes just a heavy internalized silence. But there's certain complexities of human thought, nuanced anxieties or joys that words alone simply cannot hold.
And reclaiming that lost language is basically the mission of our deep dive today.
It absolutely is.
We are exploring this fascinating book called Out of Art, Reclaiming the Language of Expression. And the subtitle really gives away the core tension we will be looking at today, which is thinking through drawing in the age of AI.
Yeah, written by Yin Young Seong.
Right. And the book unpacks how structured drawing, specifically this framework called the 5F way, can help you develop metacognition.
Which is basically an understanding of how your own mind works.
Exactly. And we're looking at why that profoundly human skill is just, well, more critical than ever in a world where an AI can generate a total masterpiece in like 3 seconds.
Yeah. But to even begin reclaiming that voice, we really have to dismantle a very stubborn cultural myth.
The talent myth.
Right. We have to stop treating drawing as this mysterious, innate gift bestowed upon a lucky few. The author argues that our inability to draw isn't a lack of talent at all. It is an education problem.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, this is what the book defines as the engineering phase of drawing.
Which actually makes total sense because the fundamental issue isn't that our hands are clumsy, it is that our eyes are literally lying to us.
Yes, we don't actually draw the physical object in front of us.
We draw what we think we know about it because our brains are like highly efficient prediction machines. Like, if I try to draw a coffee cup right now, my brain immediately overrides my vision and says, oh, a cup is a cylinder. Open at the top, closed at the bottom.
Right, you draw the symbol of a cup.
Yeah, I draw my conceptual memory of a cup, and I completely ignore the actual light, the shadow, and the real geometry of the object sitting on my desk.
Because your brain is filtering the visual world through learned assumptions. It is basically saving energy by using a symbol.
So how do we stop doing that?
Well, to break that habit, the book lays out 3 steps of seeing.
Okay.
The first is objectification. That is where you mentally classify the object and its function. So, okay, it is a manufactured object meant to hold liquid.
Right, got it.
The second step is observation.
Yep.
But this isn't just staring at it. It is actively reading its structural framework, dissecting how it actually takes up space.
Okay, and the third.
The third step is abstraction.
And I want to jump in here because the way the book frames abstraction completely flips how we usually use that word.
It really does.
It isn't about making things look weird or distorted or unrecognizable. It's about taking a form you fully understand structurally and loading it with your own specific meaning.
Yes, that is the key.
Like Andy Warhol's Campbell soup cans are the perfect example of this.
Oh, absolutely.
He didn't invent a new shape, right? He took a mass-produced, perfectly ordinary object that everyone already understood, and he poured entirely new meaning into it.
Yeah.
Commenting on consumer culture, mass production, and blending fine art with daily life.
But the thing is, he couldn't load that shape with meaning without understanding its fundamental structure first.
Right.
Which brings us to the visual grammar score. To help us bypass our brain's tendency to draw those symbols we talked about, the book breaks the act of drawing down into 5 highly systematic steps.
Okay, what are they?
Proportion, box, symmetry, centerline, and finally form.
So you start with proportion.
Right. You start by finding the basic ratio of height to width. That is proportion.
And then you draw a box. And I was thinking about the cognitive mechanism here. Drawing a box forces your brain to stop looking at the quote-unquote cup and start looking at pure geometry.
Exactly. You are literally tricking your brain's filtering system.
Because a box doesn't carry the mental baggage of a cup. So you can actually draw the lines as they really exist.
That is the exact mechanism at play. The box is a safe, neutral container.
Okay.
Once you have that container, you establish symmetry and draw a center line to keep the geometry stable.
Mm-hmm.
And only after all that scaffolding is in place do you build the final form. This sequence completely demystifies the whole process.
Like an ellipse isn't some tricky shape. It is just a shape starting inside a rectangle.
Exactly. A paper cup is just a cylinder inside a rectangular box with an ellipse at the top and bottom.
Wow.
A wine glass is just a proportional division mapped out along a center line between an upper bowl and a lower base.
Reading through this sequence, I couldn't help but think about playing the piano.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Because if you sit down at a piano, even if you aren't like a maestro, you have sheet music. It guides your hands. You know what key to press and how long to hold it.
Right.
But in art class, they just put a bowl of fruit in front of us and say, draw.
Yeah. Just look at it.
Right. There is no sheet music. But these 5 steps, proportion, box, symmetry, centerline, form, they act as that missing sheet music.
And once you have that sheet music, the entire dynamic of learning changes. Because this grammar doesn't just fix the lines on your paper, it fundamentally alters how you process information.
How so?
Well, this is what the author calls the metacognitive leap. We can look at this through the lens of the psychologist Lev Vygotsky.
Okay, I know that name.
He introduced the concept of the zone of proximal development. Basically, it is the sweet spot between what a learner can do completely alone and what they can achieve with guidance.
So when a student is given these structural guidelines, they no longer need a teacher hovering over their shoulder to point out that a cup looks lopsided.
Exactly. They can draw a line, realize the proportion is extending outside their geometric box, and fix it completely on their own.
Man, that moment of self-correction has to be revolutionary for a kid.
It is. It completely neutralizes the terror of the blank page.
Yeah.
But on a deeper level, it builds metacognition, the awareness and control of your own cognitive processes.
Because you're learning how to learn.
Right. When you learn to spot your own errors and course correct without waiting for validation or criticism from an authority figure, you are developing profound self-awareness.
You know the standard, you identify the anomaly, and you resolve it.
Exactly. And that mental muscle inevitably bleeds into how you navigate complex problems in the real world.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
I am looking at these 5 rigid steps, right? Drawing boxes, measuring exact center lines, focusing heavily on symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't help but wonder if we are just trading one cage for another. Like, aren't we turning self-expression into an assembly line?
That is a very common reaction.
It just feels like enforcing these strict rules would actually crush a person's natural creativity.
It is a valid concern, but we really have to look at how creativity actually functions. The rules aren't a cage. They are the grammar that makes self-expression intelligible.
Like learning to speak.
Exactly. Think of language. We spend years memorizing the alphabet, vocabulary, and really rigid sentence structures.
Right.
But that rigid grammar doesn't stop anyone from writing a highly original, emotionally devastating novel. In fact, you cannot write the novel unless you have mastered the alphabet first.
That makes a lot of sense.
Drawing is identical. Structure makes access equal. It gives you the tools to articulate the complex ideas in your head.
And the sources actually provided 2 student examples that perfectly illustrate the difference between being trapped by skill and being liberated by structure.
Yeah, these are great examples.
The first was a student who was just technically gifted.
Yeah.
He was able to draw these flawless photorealistic cars. But because he received so much praise, specifically for these perfect cars, the skill became his identity. And eventually it became his prison.
Right, he was terrified to draw anything else.
Literally frozen in place. He wouldn't draw a landscape or a person because he might fail and lose that praise.
Yeah.
The teacher actually had to force him to draw the asphalt under the car and the buildings next to the road, just to pry his mind open to other possibilities.
Now, contrast that technical paralysis with the other student, Nathan Y.
Right.
This was a 10th grade student who started the class with absolutely zero art experience. He learned the basic structural grammar of boxes and center lines.
Okay.
But because he wasn't burdened by a need to maintain an illusion of technical perfection, he moved very quickly past the how to draw and straight into asking, what do I actually want to say?
And what he ended up saying was incredible.
I really was.
He created this highly sophisticated collage dealing with environmental pollution. He used found images and painted elements to depict people utterly absorbed in the glowing, pixelated world of their smartphones, while the actual physical environment around them, these dead, twisted trees, was literally fading into black and white.
And remember, he didn't have years of technical rendering training, but he had the grammar, and therefore he had a voice.
Yeah, that is powerful.
Nathan's story actually reveals a new, more profound challenge, because once you know exactly how to draw the cup, the blank page is no longer a technical hurdle.
What does it become?
It becomes an existential one. Now you have to decide what the cup actually means. And this shift from engineering to expression is guided by what the book calls the 5F way.
Okay, the 5F way, let's dig into that.
So the first two F's of this framework are feel and find.
Feel and find. Right.
Feel asks, what am I sensing right now? And find asks, why do I feel this way?
Okay. And the book grounds this transition in the neuroscience of emotion, right?
Yes, referencing researchers like Imordino Yang and Damasio.
Right. They demonstrated that emotion isn't just some fluffy byproduct of thinking. Emotion is the biological foundation of learning and reason.
Yeah.
Like, real substantive thinking actually begins when an internal feeling takes shape in the body.
Exactly. But the problem is that while expression always begins with feeling, humans are notoriously bad at identifying what they're actually feeling.
So true.
Moving from simply naming an emotion to investigating its root architecture, that is where true self-reflection happens. Take Edvard Munch's famous painting, The Scream.
Oh, yeah. The iconic figure on the bridge holding its face against a blood-red sky.
Right. Munch didn't just sit down to paint a scary face because it was feeling vaguely spooky one day.
Right.
That painting is the result of tracing a lifetime of deeply personal anxiety, family illness, and a suffocating sense of dread back to its absolute root.
Wow.
Because he relentlessly followed his own feeling, that's the find stage,
Mhm.
he was able to create an image that bypassed his personal history and became a universal symbol. We resonate with the Scream not because we lived Munch's specific life, but because he gave a precise visual architecture to our own shared human anxieties.
So if you are listening to this right now, think of this process like going to a diagnostician.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Like the feel stage is walking into the clinic and saying, my stomach hurts. That is just naming the symptom.
Right.
But the find stage is the doctor running the blood work, doing the scans, and discovering the specific root cause of the pain.
Exactly. And the book uses a classroom exercise about the environment to show this in action.
Mm.
A student might start with a vague, generic feeling of anxiety about global warming. But the find stage forces them to ask what specifically makes them anxious. It moves them from a broad political theme to a highly specific personal narrative.
And once you have isolated that feeling and its root cause, you face the next hurdle, which is translating that invisible thought into a physical form without losing its meaning.
Right, which takes us to the next three Fs: form, frame, and flow.
Form, frame, flow.
Yes. Form is the idea sketching phase, asking, what does this look like?
Yeah.
Frame is choosing your medium, asking, how do I put it together? And flow is the reflection phase, asking, what does this work want to say?
Okay, let's look at the cognitive mechanism behind form first. The book brings up Christo and Jean-Claude, the artists famous for wrapping massive landmarks.
Yes, like the Reichstag.
Right, the German parliament building. They wrapped it in 100,000 square meters of silvery fabric. And on the surface, wrapping a building seems totally absurd.
It really does.
But cognitively, it is brilliant because the human brain habituates to familiar sights. A massive symbol of power like the Reichstag just becomes background noise to the people walking past it every day.
Exactly.
By hiding it, they disrupted that visual schema, forcing the brain to actively process the building's scale and presence all over again.
They made people truly see the building by obscuring it. It's fascinating. But the final wrapped building was really just the end point. If you look at the documentation of that project, there are thousands of preparatory sketches, revisions, and failed attempts spanning 24 years.
Wow, 24 years.
Right. And those drawings aren't just technical blueprints, they are the physical residue of human thought moving, evolving, and negotiating with reality. Drawing, in this sense, is thought made visible.
Which naturally brings us to frame matching the medium to the mind.
Right.
The book mentions Marcel Duchamp, who infamously took a mass-produced urinal, titled it Fountain, and placed it in a gallery.
A very controversial move.
Definitely. But he radically shifted the definition of art from making a beautiful object with your hands to making a deliberate choice. It was about choosing the tool that best amplifies the message.
Mm-hmm.
There was an anecdote in the sources about a student who was highly gifted in mathematics. When he reached the frame stage, instead of reaching for a pencil, he used mathematical formulas and algorithms as his artistic medium to build moving images.
Because math was his native language. But that assumes you instinctively know whether math or clay or charcoal is your native language. And most of us just don't know.
Right. How is a listener supposed to know which medium to pick if they aren't already an artist?
Well, this is where the concept of stubborn handwork becomes essential. The author argues that there are no shortcuts to finding your frame. You just have to get your hands dirty.
Oh.
You try colored pencils, you try collage, you try photography. Through the physical friction of actually making things, you develop an internal standard for judging your own expression.
You begin to feel it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You feel viscerally when a medium is fighting your message and when it is elevating it.
And that friction sets up flow, the act of reflecting on what you made and letting the work speak back to you.
Yes. The artist Duho Su perfectly illustrates this.
Oh, tell me about it.
He built an exact translucent replica of a traditional Korean hanok inside an American college dorm room.
Wow.
And initially, you might look at that structure and see a stark collision of two very different cultures. But because he engaged in flow, continually returning to the work and reflecting on it over 2 decades, the meaning shifted.
What did it become?
It evolved into a piece about two cultures coexisting, visible through each other. The work didn't end when the installation was finished. It generated an entirely new question.
That ongoing loop of reflection is exactly what prepares us for the final and perhaps most urgent part of our discussion today.
The role of the stubborn hand in the age of AI?
Right. Because if the frame stage is all about choosing the right tool, we have to acknowledge that artificial intelligence is simply the newest, most powerful tool in human history.
Yes, it is.
So this is the elephant in the room. If an AI can generate a technically flawless, highly creative image in 3 seconds, why do we still need the human hand at all?
It's the question everyone is asking.
The sources included a chilling story from the New York Times about a teacher watching a student use Snapchat AI to complete an assignment.
Oh, I remember this.
The student had their right hand on the camera button, their eyes completely glued to the AI's answer, and their left hand was just mindlessly transcribing whatever the AI dictated.
Just a human printer.
Exactly. There was zero thought, zero feeling, zero friction.
And that is the danger of engaging with a tool without intention. To understand where we are right now, we have to impartially observe how historical frameworks have always dictated the nature of art.
What do you mean?
Well, if we look back, European church art was explicitly structured to reflect divine order, hierarchy, and religious instruction.
Right.
Later, if you look at socialist realism in places like the Soviet Union or North Korea, it was designed to emphasize collective strength and the triumph of the state. The era's framework dictates the output.
So we have to ask, what is the framework of the AI era?
We are currently living in a framework defined by simultaneous exponential technological expansion and deep, pervasive human anxiety.
Man, that is accurate.
In this specific era, we have to remember the lesson from Duchamp. An artist isn't someone who passively uses whatever tool is handed to them. An artist is someone who deliberately chooses their tools to make a point.
The sources highlight the artist Liebol to demonstrate this.
Yeah.
The author describes walking into a gallery to see Liebol's work Majestic Splendor. The installation consisted of actual rotting fish, covered in glittering sequins, sealed in bags.
Ah.
Right. And the smell of decay permeated the entire gallery. It was visually beautiful and viscerally disgusting all at once. But by choosing rotting organic matter as her medium, she expanded art from a purely visual experience to one that involves smell, the passage of time, and the physical revulsion of the viewer's own body.
Exactly. An AI can render a picture of a rotting fish, but it cannot make you smell it.
Right.
She chose the exact tool that forced the viewer to experience her commentary on beauty and decay. And this brings us to the most crucial student narrative in the book, an 8th grader named Lindsay.
Yes. This story perfectly captures the cognitive difference between human and machine.
It really does.
So Lindsay is in the feel stage, and she is just completely exhausted. She literally tells her teacher, I just want to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
In the find stage, they dig into the architecture of that exhaustion, and she realizes the root cause is this crushing academic pressure.
Right. So in the form stage, she decides to use an AI image generator.
Yeah. She prompts it to create a figure buried under books. But when the AI spit out the result, Lindsay looked at it and realized it was fundamentally hollow.
Because the composition was technically fine, the lighting was probably great, but it lacked the suffocating truth of her actual lived experience.
It didn't feel heavy.
Exactly.
So how does she fix it? In the frame stage, she doesn't just print the AI image and turn it in. She uses her stubborn hand.
Right.
She takes the AI composition as a structural base,
Mm-hmm.
but she physically draws over it herself.
Mm-hmm.
She blacks out the background with this deep, absolute, suffocating darkness. She specifically draws the heavy textbooks stacking up over the figure, algebra, Spanish, history, making the pile higher and more oppressive.
And then she writes the word burnout in visceral red.
That is the ultimate synthesis of tool and intention.
It is. The AI provided a quick technical composition, a starting point, but the human being provided the emotional weight, the specific context, and the narrative direction.
Right.
AI does not know what it feels like to be crushed by academic expectations. It does not know the physical sensation of burnout or a broken heart. It only knows data.
It is like having a highly advanced synthesizer keyboard.
Mm.
The synthesizer can flawlessly replicate the sound of a Stradivarius violin, a grand piano, or a massive choir.
Oh, yeah.
It has all the technical capabilities in the world. But that machine is never going to play a single note of the blues on its own.
Never.
It requires a human being, someone who has actually experienced heartbreak or grief or profound joy, to sit down, touch the keys, and decide exactly which notes need to be played to communicate that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
If you just let the machine play its pre-programmed demo track, the output is shiny, perfect, and completely empty.
Without the human stepping in and saying, make that background darker, make those books heavier, the art means nothing.
Right.
The human hand and the human mind behind it remain irreplaceable. We don't draw simply to render a photographic copy of the world. We draw to understand the complex era we are living in and to locate ourselves within it.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We have unpacked a massive amount of cognitive and artistic ground today.
We really have.
The core takeaway is that this isn't really about becoming a professional artist or learning to paint a perfect bowl of fruit.
Not at all.
Drawing is a profound, accessible tool for metacognition. The engineering phase teaches you how to bypass your brain's lazy filters and see the physical world objectively.
Mm-hmm.
The expression phase gives you the grammar to see yourself and trace your feelings to their root. And the expansion phase teaches you how to master your tools, whether that is a piece of charcoal or an AI prompt, to broadcast your unique, irreplaceable voice into the noise of the modern world.
But knowledge is most valuable when it is immediately applied.
Absolutely.
You now understand the cognitive mechanism of the visual grammar score. You understand the 5F way. You have the sheet music.
Which means it is time to play. We want to leave you with a specific, tangible challenge to mull over today.
Mm-hmm.
The next time you feel a sudden, overwhelming wave of an unexplained emotion, maybe as a flash of road rage on your commute, a sudden burst of joy, or just a heavy, lingering anxiety on a Sunday afternoon, don't just brush past it.
Right.
Don't immediately pull out your phone to numb the feeling with scrolling. Grab a pen, draw a simple structural box on a piece of paper, and inside that geometric safe space, challenge yourself to map out exactly why you feel that way.
Trace the symptom back to the root.
Because in an age where algorithms and machines can generate an endless, overwhelming stream of answers in milliseconds, the most revolutionary thing you can possibly do is to deeply understand your own questions.
The tools will keep changing, but the human necessity to understand ourselves remains constant.
Think back to that jagged circle with the 2 dots you drew when you were 4 years old, before anyone asked you where the nose was. That unfiltered freedom, that direct line between your mind and your hand is still yours. You just have to pick up the pencil.